Hey everyone, welcome back to the Dungeon Dive. Daniel here. Okay, so this is the third episode of the Let's Play Warhammer quest. And if you remember last time, our poor witch hunter, Saul Matheson, he fell to his doom trying to cross this bottomless pit and this rickety old bridge. So this way back out is perilous, probably can't make it through. We're going to try some stuff to try to get our barbarian Harlan Peters. We're going to try to get him out of this dungeon. And I have a little story type narrative thing to do, so hopefully we can get him out in a way that makes sense and it's fun. The nice thing about Warhammer Quest, and my favorite thing, is the game itself is pretty simple until you start adding on like a lot of the monster powers, and it can get bogged down a little bit if you don't know them all, which I don't. But for the most part, the game is pretty simple, and so it really lends itself to creating a narrative as you play. And I believe that is the game's greatest strength. It is a pretty good system for GM-less RPing if you get into the story creating aspect and put yourself kind of like in the situation. So last time we ended with the power phase. We didn't roll a 1. So all we have right now is we have our barbarian Harlan facing off against 3 regular orcs, and it is the hero's turn. And so we are going to enter into their phase. And so we can move and then we can attack. He can't move. He's all pinned in here. But he does just need to attack. And we're hopefully going to get some death blows here. So a death blow is when the hero kills an enemy in 1 strike. Now there is some debate over whether that applies to enemies that have already been damaged in previous turns or not. We are going to play probably the cheaper way. We're going to say that whenever he kills an orc with 1 strike, regardless of how many hit points the orc has, he cleaves through it, and then it can move on in a direction, and he can keep cleaving through enemies until he stops doing death blows or until he reaches a impassable object or obstacle or another hero. But anyway, so we need to attack this orc right here, and this orc right here, he has a weapon skill of 3. And so we look at our to hit chart here on our barbarian, and when the enemy's weapon skill is 3, the barbarian needs a 4 to hit. But the first thing we have to do is we have to see if our orc or our barbarian goes berserk or not. And we have to roll. If we roll a 6, he goes berserk. 5. Nope, not angry enough yet. Maybe next time. All right, so now we're going to attack, and like I said, he needs a 4 up to hit that orc. And there's my 4. Got it. Excellent. Okay, so his damage, his sword does 1d6 plus 4, and that's 1d6 plus his strength. So we're going to, let's see, and these orcs have a toughness of 4. So this is going to be a straight damage roll. And to cleave him, to do a death blow, I've got to hit at least 3 wounds. 5. Excellent. All right, so that completely destroys this orc. And now his blow can continue on in a direction I choose to the next orc. So now we're going to hit this guy. All right, let's see here. I need a 4 up. Oh, no. All right, so the death blow does not carry through, and that is going to be the end of the hero's phase, the warrior's phase, and now it is the monster's phase. So the monsters are not going to move. They are just going to attack Harlan. They have no special rules for attacking or anything. Harlan's weapon skill is 3. So you look here, opponent's weapon skill is 3. And the orcs also need a 4 to hit. So this first one, the unpainted one, will hit first. So he needs a 4 up. There it is. There's that 4. So he does 1d6 plus 3 damage. Okay, 6 damage. And the barbarian has a toughness of 4. So the barbarian takes 2 wounds. And I'm just going to represent that by this little dice over here. I'm going to keep that over by the character sheet. Okay, so the next orc is going to attack Harlan. He needs a 4 up. There it is. All right, how many wounds? What was it? 2 plus 3 is 5 minus 4, 1. So Harlan has taken 3 points of damage. And if we recall, he has 12 hit points total. Okay, so that was the monster's turn. There's not going to be an exploration phase. We're going to go back up to the power phase where we roll a 1. Oh no, I tried to trick the dice again and I failed. So we have to draw a random event. Oh no, this is not this is not good. Not good at all. Okay, so we're going to be facing against a goblin shaman and let's see how many goblins here. 1, because we're going to cut that by half. Oh no, 1 plus 6. So we're going to be 4 goblins and a shaman. Oh man, I do not think Harlan is going to make it out of this alive. Okay, so let me find my goblin shaman here. We'll use this guy as a shaman, and he's going to come in here. He wants to be at range because he has some magic. So we need to figure out what kind of magic he has. And then we're going to have our, 6 goblins. We will use, we'll use these goblin spearmen. So it was 3 plus 2, actually. So the full complement of goblins would have been 6 plus the die roll of 2. So there's going to be 4. Divide that by half. So these goblins have spears, and so they can attack. They fight in ranks, which basically means they can hit from 2 away. And he will be out here. All right, so now things are really looking bad for our poor barbarian here. He is completely surrounded, and I think it's time for him to bug out here. Those goblin, the shaman, they can be pretty bad. So there are a couple of ways when you're playing the advanced game, when you're playing the game where you're going to carry over your heroes from game to game. There are a couple of ways to escape. One is if your route has just been blocked and you have no other way to get either back to the beginning, to the entrance to escape, or you've explored everything and you can't find the objective room for some reason. In that way, it's more of a good way to escape, whereas the last card you draw, the last room or corridor, always leads out. However, when you're in a situation like this where the shit has just hit the fan and things are bad, then you kind of have to do the escaping rules. And those are found in the adventure book. And basically, sometimes the warriors might find themselves in a situation that can only mean certain death for them. And in these cases, it is best that the party abandons its adventure and heads for the safety of the surface as quickly as possible. At any time during the adventure, any player may decide that his warrior has had enough and can try to escape from the dungeon. If the warrior carrying the lantern decides to leave the dungeon prematurely, he either has to give the lantern to other warriors or they all have to go with him. If your warrior takes flight and tries to escape from the dungeon, roll 2d6 on the following table. And this is really bad. You never want to be in this situation, but I don't. There's no way. There's no way Harlan is getting out of there. So one of these rolls could easily be the death of Harlan, and of course we want to roll high. So, oh man, this is nerve-wracking. All right, Harlan, he's surrounded by orcs and goblins. He sees an opportunity to run for it, to bolt out of the dungeon, hopefully find some way of escaping while he's being pursued. Let's see what happens to him. 8. I think that might have been okay. 8. The way to freedom is a bitter struggle against what seems like hundreds of orcs and goblins. Your warrior loses 2d6 wounds modified for toughness and armor. If he does not have that many wounds left, he is dead. If he survives, he manages to fight his way out, bleeding from a dozen injuries. He has escaped. Okay, so let's see. I have 9 hit points left. My toughness is 4. 8 minus 4 is 5. So I take, I take 8 minus 4 is 4. So I take that much damage, and he survives just barely. So I had 9 minus 4. I have 5 hit points left, and Harlan Peterson flees the dungeon. That was just a terrible expedition there. No treasure, nothing. I do want to see where we were going. Oh, look at that, the fire chasm. That was our objective. So close and yet so far. All right, so I wrote a little thing that I'm going to read. This is a little, let's see, where did it go here? Oh no, did I leave it at work? I might have left it at work. I had a little narrative thing that I had written to, all right, well, we're going to pause for just a minute and I'll be right back. All right, I'm back and I did find it. So Harlan Peters is running from the goblins, and he finds looks like to be a weak spot in the wall, and he bursts through the wall, and here's what happens to him. Harlan Peters bursts through a crumbling fissure in the wall, tumbling out of the dungeon to the world outside. Unfortunately, his hasty exit is punctuated by the realization that he has ended up on an impossibly steep slope, and he rolls head over heels, bouncing off rocks and trees, down, 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 until he finally stops at the bottom of a rocky ravine. Coming to, still dazed and confused, Harlan looks up, his vision blurry, and he begins to focus on a small, stout figure standing before him. "You disappoint me, barbarian." It's Bartok Hammersmith, the dwarf that sent him on this perilous quest. At Bartok's feet lays the crumpled body of Saul, the witch hunter. It seems your friend's gods aren't quite done with him. He's unconscious and badly wounded, but he'll live, given the proper attention, but it'll cost you. Bartok demands all of the treasure and gold Harlan acquired in the dungeon, and Harlan tells him that we don't have any. It was a complete disaster. Bartok grumbles. "Well, pick up your friend and follow." "He's not really my friend, just Harlan says, but is interrupted by Bartok. "Quiet and do what I say. You still owe me a quest, and I'll make sure you deliver." The three travel to a small dwarven village neatly hidden among the rocks. After some time, Saul is mended, but his faith is in crisis. Realizing that, in his moment of terror, he neglected to call upon the power of his gods, Saul's divine power seems to have been stripped away. A few days later, Bartok tells Harlan and Saul of an alternate entrance into the same dungeon below, and demands that they complete the task they started. They reluctantly agree. So Saul's going to come back to life, or not to life. He wasn't dead. Somehow the dwarves rescued him. But however, because he forgot to pray, because he forgot to use his faith in this moment of crisis to get over the bridge, he is going to have to go through 2 complete adventures without any faith in order for it to be restored. So basically what we're going to be doing is we're going to be starting over, going to the same fire chasm with the same objective, but we're going to take an alternate path, set up a new dungeon deck, and hopefully get through it this time. So yeah, like I said, I like creating these kinds of narrative adventures and stories is my favorite part of this game. It, in some ways, I guess you could say it strips away the mechanisms of the game, but I would argue that it actually makes the mechanisms more fun because they are relatively simple. So I'm going to reset everything, and we're not going to have a travel phase or a settlement phase. We're going to jump right back into a new dungeon phase, or a new dungeon adventure, and see what happens. So I know this episode was a little shorter than the others, but that's just how it goes. And in a couple of days, I will be back with part 4, and we will see if if fate is kinder to Harlan and Saul. So, all right, guys. Well, hope you enjoyed this one, and we will talk to you later. Bye bye.